coding has a meaning here. So the first keyword, what we write is a keyword, which describes the coding, right? See, later we'll discuss about this word also. Describes an object. So now we'll not understand the purpose of this, so I'm not going to explain. So class is a keyword used to define your programs, used to define your Java programs. So without this, we can't do any coding as of now. And other than that, what did we use? Public keyword. This is a keyword used to give an access to your JVM. So you're writing this with a main function. So you set public static void main, but this main function is defined inside which program? It is inside a class. So whatever class you wrote, it's inside that we have written this particular keyword. So this function should be executed by the interpreter. So to reach to this internal function of the demo class, it should be given an access from everywhere. So if I mention public, this function can be accessed by the JVM and execution can start. If I don't use this keyword, program will compile, but it will not execute. So compiler will not give any warning, but execution time, this is not given access. So at least if JVM has to access the main function, we have to make this function as which access specifier? Public. So this is a keyword, or we can say it's called as exactly access specifier. So this is an access specifier used to give an access of this main function to, or we say to the JVM. So as of now, JVM is running this function. So at least JVM should have an access to this. So that's the reason we are writing it as public. And the next keyword, what we have as a static keyword. So whenever we use static keyword with any information or any function of a class, everything what we write inside a class can have this keyword. So if I'm using this keyword, the main function now it's directly linked with the class name. So that means it actually belongs to demo.class file right now. So the main function is directly connected to which class? Demo class. Because of that only, when I said Java demo 1 or Java demo, what is JVM trying to do? JVM is trying to directly call its static main function. And that was also given as which keyword? Public. So if it was not given with a static keyword, it can never access this main function directly with the demo class. So whenever you want to run the main function, main should be at least a class function. So how to make a function connected to a class is just use the keyword static. So when I'm writing static, this main method belongs to which class? Demo class. So you can run it with demo class directly. I don't need any object support. Later we'll come to know non-static things, then we'll discuss more about it. Once again, I'll discuss this keyword. So as of now, whatever is static, if I write a class A, and inside this, if I take a variable with this manner, like this, and if I take a function, because you are already a EC or CSC student, you know that we can declare variables, we can define functions like this. So whenever you declare or define a variable and a function with which keyword right now? Static keyword. So what happens? These two are associated to which class now? A class. Means this variable belongs to A class. Means I can access it through class name dot x, class name dot function. So that means just like in C language, global variables we say, no? Now these variables belongs to this particular program. So whoever wants to call this data or function, they have to access them with the help of its class name. So that's the reason we are using this keyword. Keyword is used to link this information and function to which class? Class A. Anyhow, this topic we'll discuss later also. As of now, briefly, it's a class member. Static data and static functions are associated to classes. Whenever you want to access them, we have to access them with the class name. Clear? And next is void keyword. Void keyword is nothing but a return type. Return type means every function on execution. See, if I say square root function, And I'm calling this in a mathematical way in C language or any language. What do we expect? Does it give any value or is it going to print on its own 5? If I just write like this, will it print an answer on the screen in C language? Or we have to do something like this.
Prints.
We have to do something like
Yes.
this.
Yes.
So that means this function is returning an answer. Just like if I do a calculation, it will return an answer 11. Similarly, when I'm calling this function, square root function, it will take the data and find out the answer and returns it answer back. So that returned value is printed in C language like this. Or else we could have taken answer as square root of 25. So in that sense also what is happening? A is assigned with which value? The square root of 25. So after finding the square root of 25, it should return a number 5 and that will be allotted to which variable? A. So when something is performed, if it returns a value, I can take and save the value or I can take and print the value. So that's called as a return type. So when you are writing a main function, to the left side of it, we are mentioning the return type of every function. So main does not return any type of information. Inside main function, we just write our statements. Whatever we write are just plain statements. And after writing the statements, completion, we don't say any return statement. We don't say return 0. We don't say return XYZ, or we don't say any return values because it is just returning nothing. So we can simply say return semicolon. Means, is it returning anything? Nothing. So returning nothing means we have to mention which keyword? Void. So void means nothing, no data. Data of no data type is called as void. Because if I say here int, that means this function should at the end return which type of data? Some or the other numeric type of data. If I say here char, it should return which type of data? A character type of data at the end. So now this function is predefined and they have made it not to return anything as a return type. So the main function signature, the complete signature of the main function should be, it must be public, it must be class function, it must not return any value, the name must be main only. We can't give any name you like. We can't say main 1, main 2. It will not be recognized by JVM. So JVM will only run the function if it is having these syntaxes. And inside the main brackets, we always write string args, generally array. So later we'll learn this chapter anyhow, that functions topic I'll explain. So every function, see generally, briefly if I have to say also, when you talk about function, it's just a block of statements generally. And for this block, we can pass inputs to it, then it can process the inputs, and then finally it can return a value. This is the basic structure of a function. So in function, we have some block of statements. If you want to supply some inputs to this block of statements, we can pass these inputs through the round brackets, whatever you mention inside the function. And then only program will execute, function will execute. And after execution is over, at the end, it will return a value. So if I'm writing the function like this, that means here the arguments are, how many arguments it's expecting? These are the inputs. So how many inputs it's expecting right now? 2, of which data type? Int data type. So only when somebody passes 2 integers to this function, it can perform the calculation with these 2. And finally, what it should do? Return the answer. But answer is in which format? Integer. Because some function is expected to take 2 integers, process the information, and finally return which type of data? Int type of data. So last statement should be a return statement only. So in this way we define a function in any language. So if I'm just writing this,
Ma'am,
yeah,
we have taken int c is equals to a plus b, right?
yes,
So in the starting int sum of int a and int b, we should not. It's not necessary to write c over there.
no. No. See, just think like a calci right now. If I'm
Okay.
opening a calci also, do I supply the answer from this input? This is a calci app. I want to do addition. What will I pass
Okay.
to the addition symbol? How many inputs we will supply? Only
Two.
two. When I click this, it's like function execution started. Background, the
Okay.
addition will happen, and background, it will return a value. That value will be again pasted on the graphical page, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
internally, while processing the code, you can take a third variable, or you may not be interested to do that also. You can directly
Okay.
say this. You can do that also. It's up to you. So this
Okay.
function, the person who has written the code of that function, they will decide how to write that code. But ultimately, what it should do, it should return an answer. Which kind of an
Okay.
answer? Sum of the two given inputs. So take the inputs, add them up, and return the answer. That's what is we are expecting.
Yeah, we
So
need to give the value.
yes, so this is I have written the coding. It's just written code. I didn't run it. We have to run it. For
Okay.
execution, what should we do? Again, we have to say
Okay.
static void main string as it is. Blindly you write this part,
Yeah.
and now whatever we do here only will get executed. Now I said whenever you write a class, use static keyword for sure as of now.
Okay.
Only then it's associated to which class? Test class. As we have written the signature, same signature we can assign here also if you want.
Okay.
Public static, only what is difference here?
Int.
Int type. Here it is void type. So now how many functions are found in the test program? Two functions.
Okay.
And if I write a message here, hello, and just this much, I wrote two functions, both of the public static type only. And after that, if I compile the test.java and if I run the test class, so execution of this class starts from which point?
Main.
It will call this main function, fine. So what will be the message on the screen?
Hello.
Only hello will be there. Nothing else will get executed. If whatever you want to execute, you have to run it. You have to call it here. So if I want to do the summation of some two numbers, I have to call this function. What is the name of this function?
Some.
Sum, and give some inputs to it now. Call the function by passing two inputs to it,
Okay.
whatever. And when we call it, what is the job of this function? The given inputs will be saved here. And what is it going to do with those inputs? This coding will get
Add.
executed now.
Yeah.
It will add them up, generate an answer 12. And what is it going to do? Return it back to the caller. Who has called these values will get an answer here. But what should we do with this answer? We should print it now. So to print the answer, what you can do? I want to print as if some values.
Okay.
So I am directly saying I want to print the value which is returned from which execution? Sum of
Some.
these two numbers. So we are calling the function, giving two inputs to it so that it will start executing. After execution is over, we are returning back something to this function here. So we'll get which answer here? 11 will be printed on the screen. Sorry, 12 will be printed on the screen. Right?
So, ma'am, you have given two functions no here. With
Yeah.
one function also, directly as you've given in int a is equals to 5, directly we can execute with one function and we will get the
Yeah.
answer like that.
No, it should be inside main then. See, if you want to do the addition of two numbers, you should have written here only then.
Yeah,
Something like this. Then we can say directly here.
system.
Everything
Yeah,
should be written in A plus B.
B.
But
Okay.
again, if I have to do addition, what I should do? Again, I have to take some more values, change the values. And again, what we have to do?
System.
So A plus B. So I'm repeating the job here. Instead of this, if I have written the code here, I've
Okay.
written the solution here. The logics I've saved outside the program. So I don't have to do this again and again.
Okay.
Whenever you want to print an answer of any addition, just we have to see the values. Again, you want to print some other calculation, we have to just change the values.
Okay. So
So the
you,
yes,
yes.
reusability. So this I will teach anyhow. This functions topic I just have introduced you. Now again we'll explain in the later how many ways we can write functions, how many variations we can write. Actually, what is the purpose of function? I'll discuss that.
Okay.
Just because we are learning here what is the syntaxes we are writing in the this is function. And
Okay.
what is this in the brackets is inputs. Whatever you can pass as an input to the function, we should mention here. The variable should be declared in the round brackets. Fine. Is
Yes.
that clear?
Yes.
And main is expecting which type of inputs? String type of
String.
inputs. And this is which variation? Array. Means it can accept any number of text, any number of words from the user. And later I'll discuss this concept is called as command line arguments.
Okay.
Okay. This we'll see anyhow. Okay. Is that
Yes.
clear? Any
Yes.
confusion?
No.
Yeah. So now let us start with the actual topic today. What I'm going to explain is about data types. So in Java, we have only two types of data. Did I explain this? Did I explain this topic to
No,
you?
ma'am.
Okay. So in Java, we have only two variations of data types. The first variation is called as primitive data types, and the second variation is reference data types. Slight difference between this, but if you remember your C language little bit, this reference types are nothing but similar to which type? Pointer types. Similar. I'm not saying exactly the same. These are similar to pointer types. Now, what's the differences exactly? If I'm saying primitive types, the example of a primitive type is int data type. Now, int is one of the data type which is specifying a primitive type. So whenever I declare a variable of this primitive data type and I just leave it with a semicolon. So this is called as data declaration. When I do this, for every data type, we'll have some prescribed memory. So int data type in Java is made up of how many bytes? 4 bytes of memory. It will consume more 4 bytes of memory that a larger data can be stored. So by typing int, immediately we'll get a block of memory in the background memories. So that means we are getting totally how many bytes memory? Total 4 bytes of memory. 4 bytes. And now the name of this 4 bytes is right now from here till here, the whole block name is N1. Now, if I say later N1 is equal to some 25. Now, when I do the assignment of a value of integer type, 25 will be stored in this binary, that means in this block in a binary format. So whatever is the binary format of this, it will be stored from right to left. So that means whatever is the data, if it's 12, something like this. So we have to fill here like this. So just irrespective of that, just think that what is there in this memory? 25 is filled inside that memory right now. So inside the same location, we find the data that is called as primitive data type. Now, what is reference data type? Example of reference data type is string. If I declare a variable of string, again we'll get for every reference data types, we'll get 8 bytes of memory. So we'll get a block of how many bytes? 8 bytes, and the name of this 8 bytes is what? S1. And later, if you say S1 is equal to text, like a text called text, so now this is called as a string information. So this is a string object. Generally, we use this word frequently, object. So you can just briefly remember here, object means a block of memory which has some data of some or the other type. So in this block, we are storing which data now? Which type of data? Text or string type of data. So this block of memory is now called as an object of which type of data? String type of data. So this is one object. So whenever you write somewhere something like this, immediately a block of memory is created to store every information of that string inside this, ended with properly a null character. So this whole block is called as a string object. And when we write S1 equal to tech, so this is an object. And what is this here? A reference, a pointer. S1 will now point to this particular object's base location. So if this object is created at 100th byte on the RAM, the position, so that 100 is stored in which variable? S1. So S1 variable will never hold a data. So that means generally what we wrote was integer N1 is equal to 5. So when I wrote like this, we got 4 bytes of memory, and inside that 4 bytes only we have which data? 5. This is primitive types. But when I'm writing something like this, so what happens in the background? There is one variable of 8 bytes. This is of how many bytes? 4 bytes. And now the information is somewhere else. Information will be stored somewhere. Only references, this variable will point to this information. So if I say S1 is equal to techlearn again. Now again I have written some new object. In another new location, techlearn is created and it's allotted to which reference? Same reference. Now previously it was pointing to this object, which may be lying at some 100th address. Now techlearn may be created at some new address. Now where is S1 pointing to? 200. Previously it was pointing to 100. Now it is pointing to which location? 200. So what about this link? It's already broken. And when the link is broken to an object, the object is immediately destroyed. That is called as garbage collection. So any object in the system, if it does not have a link reference to connected to it, it will immediately get destroyed automatically. This is called as automatic memory management in Java, right? So references will never hold a value. It will only hold an address of the value, right? Is this clear to you? When I said N15, it is different. When I said S1 tech, it is different. Both are two different things, right?
Ma'am, can you repeat? It is very confusing.
Okay, fine. I'll just explain again because this is the base of Java. Java, Python, every language is this concept only.
Okay.
So here we are talking about object orientation. What is object orientation is a data stored in some part of memory, and in that lot of functions also will be allotted. Logics. Okay, this we'll discuss later. As of now, string is an object type. So whenever you type tech or any kind of double quotations, it will be loaded somewhere. And then we can store it in a variable. So if I said S1 is equal to tech, something like this. So S1 is a variable which will not hold tech here. Inside S1, we don't have the data. Inside S1, we have the base address of this information. So because whenever you load a data, every data will be of some bytes. Each character in Java language will take 2 bytes of memory. So this is each character in 2 bytes and null character also 2 bytes. So total memory used up by tech is how many bytes? 10 bytes of memory. So if it is 100, 101, 102, it goes on. So what is the base address of this information? 100. Fine. So now when I have written something like this, S1 is tech, what is stored inside S1 right now? If I'm saying, so tech's base address, S1 will not hold the data. S1 will hold the base address of the tech information. So just blindly just think like in JVM on the software, whenever you write something like in English, techlearn or tech or some, okay, ABC or something in double quotation. So there is a memory inside JVM, which is only reserved for storing which information? Objects.
It's
So which objects? Objects of any type, string type, array type, different types of objects. So right now we are trying to dump these informations here, whatever we wrote. Now how many informations I have written here? 1, 2, 3. All are which type of information? String type of information. So all these informations will be stored some or the other location inside your JVM. Somewhere it is created. So this space is only for objects. This area is basically called as heap area. In C also we learn this actually.
Yeah.
Dynamic area, dynamic memory allocation. So this is object or heap area. Now we have S1, S2, S3, all of which type?
String.
String type. So they are not inside this memory. They are somewhere else. The variables are created in some other memory. So now if I have three variables like this, now each one is pointing to which information? Like this.
It's
If
allocating the different.
yes, it's only storing the base addresses of them.
Yes.
So they are not holding the data. But if I write something like this, okay, so what happens? There are some normal memories allocated.
Yeah.
Each variable has its name, and inside each memory only we'll find the data.
Data. Yeah.
So in the same point, same location, we have the data. But references, reference variable will not have the data. These variables will only point to the data which is loaded somewhere else.
Okay.
Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
These are called as reference types. If you remember little bit of about pointers,
Yes.
if this is the data, if you remember, I don't know whether you remember or not. Did we do like this in C language?
Yeah.
So that means what happens in the background? If A is stored at some address, maybe like 6500. Inside A, what is stored? 5. And what is the other variable declared? Pointer. And what is it holding inside this?
A. Okay.
This is location.
Okay. Yeah.
This is name of the location.
Okay.
And the
Ma'am,
RAM, yeah,
inside a 6500 should be stored now.
no,
Base
this is
address of
C
5.
language. No, this is C language.
Okay.
Not
In
also
Java, that
C.
will be
In
stored.
no, in Java also it is same, because these are called as primitives.
Primitive. Yeah.
What is primitive? Like int, char, long, double, float. So what is the meaning of primitive is, if I declare any variable of primitive type and we allot a value here. So what happens with that? We'll get a memory of 4 bytes for float, and inside that only what value is stored? Same value. This is primitive. In the variable location, what is a variable? Name of a location. Every location will have some base address. If it is 4 bytes, it will be something like this. What is the base address of this? 100. So what is the name of this 4 bytes? F1. Inside F1, what did we store? The value. Value is found in the same location in which variable is defined. This is primitive types. But when I talk about pointers in C language, it will talk about addresses like this. So with that, what happens? Is the pointer holding a data or address of A?
Address of it.
Yes. So inside this location, what is found? Inside the address of A, what is found? Value of A. A's value is stored,
A is 5.
right? So
Yeah.
through pointer, we are able to reach to this location through which we are able to reach to the data. So if I say P in C language, we get which answer?
6.
Address of A, because P is pointing to what value or address of A?
Address of A.
Address of A. So to fetch the value, we use this operator, dereference operator. Then only it gives you what? When you say
Value of A.
star P, value found at that address. It opens this wrap. It derefers to the value at this reference. Means it says value at which address? P's address, right?
Yes.
This is the concept here. So same thing what we are doing in Java also. In Java also same concept. In Java, two types of data. The first type of data is called as primitive type. In that, the examples are int, long, float, etc. And second type is reference type. So primitive type means same like C language. If I write like this, something like this, what exactly happens in the background? Some 4 bytes of memory in Java. In Java, this is of how many bytes? 4 bytes. And in that, we are only storing one data, not more than that. It can be at any location we don't know. This is the name of the location. This is the location, address. In primitive, variable location only will find the data. Same way, long variable. Long variable is of how much size? 8 bytes. So long variable will consume 8 bytes. Whatever value you store, it's up to you. It's inside the same block. So it may be residing in some address. But we are not concerned about the addresses. I'm saying inside N2 location. What is N2 means? This location. Inside this location, we have this data directly. This is primitives. Okay. So when I said SOP of N1, system will go to this location. What is this location called? 200. Inside this location, what is there? 5. So directly one location will find the data. But now references. So what is the meaning of references? Reference types are string and arrays. There are more classes, interfaces, etc. So what is the meaning of this is, if I declare any variable of string type, it will not hold any data first. If I'm just writing like this, it will just declare a variable. Any reference variable is always of the same bytes, 8 bytes, S1. It may be located at some address. But now, when I said S1 is equal to something, ABC. Now, ABC is not here. We will not store the data here. The data will be stored in some other location. These are objects. Here we have ABC and logics on strings. Logics means, like we say, we can find out index of a letter, we want reverse of something, caret something, lot of logic, lowercase, uppercase. We'll deal with that functions. We'll have associated functions on strings all together in one block only. And wherever this is residing, this whole information and the logics, these we are storing in which information, which variable? S1. So S1 only knows the location of the data. This is data. Or we say exactly we call them as objects. So string object is created somewhere. Its address is saved in S1. S1 is which type of data now? It's a reference, because what is stored inside S1? 200. What is the meaning of 200? It's a reference of which data? ABC. Whatever you created, its reference is saved in which variable? S1. Now, whenever I say SOP S1, by this we are giving a instruction to the system. S1 means which location? It will go to that location. Check. S1 stores whose address? 200. It will go to that location. Inside that location, whatever is found, it will get printed now. What is found inside that location? ABC. So now the text ABC will be printed on the string on the screen right now. This is reference variables, right? So same S1, if I say PQR. Now initially it was pointing to which location? 200 location, in which data was created? ABC. Now when I wrote double quotes PQR, somewhere else this information is again loaded. A new data is created once again. And it may be found at definitely some other address. This is the first string object. This is the new string object with PQR information. And what did you do with this object? Where did you save this address? Again in S1 only. Now either S1 can point to ABC or it can point to which data? PQR. So now currently it is pointing to which location? PQR's
PQR.
location. So now it's updated from 200 to which address now?
500.
500. So the same reference is now pointing to this one, and this link is broken and this object is destroyed. It will be cleared off from the memories. ABC will be totally erased from the memories. So now when I print SOP of S1, system.out.println of S1, now S1 means which reference now? It's referencing to what? S1 will point to something. So what is it pointing to?
500
And what is found inside that?
PQR.
So PQR is printed. So similarly in Java, we have arrays also as reference types only. In C language, it wasn't a reference types. In Java, it is a reference. So in Java, we declare arrays something like this. Like this. So that means this is an object of which type? In this object, we have continuous data in a block of memory, index-based data. So that means this is an object of which type? Object of array. Array of which type? Integer type. So somewhere this array is created. The base address of that is important for us. And this is a reference. It's not int array. I'm not saying it's int AR. If I write like this, it's a primitive data type. But I have used which symbol here? Array symbol. So this again is a reference variable, just like S1. AR is a reference to which type of data? Int array type of data. So do we have an integer array here? Yes. Now this is pointing to this array's base address. So it is holding whose address now? Array's base address. So whenever you want to talk about this array, we have to reach it to through which reference? AR, and call the indexes of each element like this. So this is reference. AR is not holding the values of array. It is holding the address of the array. And through that address only, we can reach to each element of the array through its indexes. So just like S1 is holding a reference of string object, this AR is also holding address of this array object. Clear? Any confusion? We'll discuss this later. Anyhow, we'll be discussing a lot of things like this. So you got a clarity between difference between primitive and reference types?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. So in Java, there are 8 primitive types. Starts from byte, short, int. I'm giving it an order, smallest to largest, in numeric type, and then decimal values, float and double, char, and the last one is boolean. So these 4 are of integer types, no decimal values, no fractional units there. So right now, this is of only single byte, 1 byte of information. This will consist of a data up to a range of how many bytes? 2 bytes. This will talk about a range of, see whether you're using on Linux, nowhere. It's not about platform dependent. It's data types is always 4 bytes, whether you use Linux, Windows or whatever. Because Java language has standard data types. Always byte will be of 1 byte, short will be of 2 bytes. Not like C language. Unlike in C, we can say in Turbo C it takes 2 bytes, in Linux it takes 4 bytes. There's a variation. But in Java, it's not like that. Everywhere, the short means 2 bytes, int means 4 bytes, and long means 8 bytes of memory. Float means 4 bytes of memory is consumed. Double means 8 bytes of memory. And char in Java, it is of 2 bytes because it supports basic ASCII character, the basic set which we use in C language, basic characters which belong to the basic ASCII set, ANSI set, that plus other Unicode systems. So like there are different sets, like see, Telugu has some letters, those letters are saved in some system, some character set. Chinese people, they have their own sets. Japanese have some letters. some different symbols have introduced and they are saving, like mathematical symbols are there, sigma, so many symbols we use in computers. So every symbol will be saved some or the other character set. So ASCII set is already the basic set of letters which are consisting of 256 characters. Other than that, new characters have been developed and they are saved in other Unicode systems. So Java supports basic 256 letters which require 1 byte of memory, plus others require 1 more byte of memory. So total how many bytes of memory is required? 2 bytes for char in Java, right? And Boolean. Boolean only talks about some values, like in C language when you said 2 less than 3, it used to give either 1 or it used to give 0. So this is like integer numbers only. 1 or 0 are basically integers. And how much memory is consumed by integer? 2 or 4 bytes. It's unnecessary. Just to store a digit 0 or 1, we need only 1 bit. Just to store the comparisons answers, I don't need 1 byte of memory or 2 bytes of memory. Out of that 1 byte, I need only 1 bit to store 0 or 1. So for that, they have introduced a new data type called as Boolean data type. So this Boolean data type is of 1 bit of memory, 1 bit, not even 1 byte. Because this 1 bit is enough, in this we can store 0 or 1, binary system, right? And the information which are associated to Boolean type is true or false. There are only 2 keywords used in this particular data. So that means you can check this by just typing system.out.println of 2 less than 3. When you write this, generally in other languages we get 1 or 0, true or false. But here we get an answer as true or false. But this keyword is small letters. It's not capital letters, because in Java it is small letters, in Python it is capital letters. We have to be little careful. So it's true, otherwise we'll get false here, right? Is that clear? And each data type will talk about a range of data. Like in 1 byte, the largest value which we can store is up to a range of -128 to +127 values only. We can't cross these digits. If you want to just work with smaller level of data, you can always declare a variable of which type. You can just declare byte b is equal to, just like marks. Marks cannot exceed 100. So out of 100, if you want to type some score, so we can take the score as which data type? Not integer, because score is not 4 bytes of memory. This will only use up 1 byte of memory, less than 1 byte. So if you convert this into binary, you can understand it will not use more than 1 byte. This I'll show it tomorrow if you want to know how the memory is calculated. So to store this range of data, I don't need more than 1 byte. Exactly, I need 7 bits for the binary format plus 1 bit for this sign symbol. So total how many bits are required? 8 bits are required, means 1 byte. So if you're dealing with less than this range of data, declare a variable of which type? Byte data type. So if you're exceeding that range, if you're dealing with numbers of range up to 32,768 to 32,767. So we need how many bytes of memory? 2 bytes of memory. If you convert this into binary format, you will get exactly 15 bits of 15 ones. That means we are consuming 15 bits to store this number and 1 bit for the sign. So totally we are using 16 bits to store this data. And after that, it keeps on increasing the range. I'll give you this range of data anyhow. So depending upon which type of numbers you're working in your program, you have to choose the data types. If you're working with very large integer values, always take a long data type. If you want to go with smaller precision, 6 decimal values, we can go for float. 15 decimal values, we can go for double. For a characters, we can take char data type. For a Boolean expressions, take a Boolean data type, right? So these are the 8 primitive data types available in Java. And when it comes to reference data types, there are many, but mainly named ones are like string, which we say generally example at. Every class, any class which we are using in Java is always a reference only. Every interface, these are the data types actually we say. We can design our programs using class keyword. We can design our program using interface keyword. So everything in Java is a dot class file only, including string. String also is a class only. Is a class. Same way, array is also class. So all the classes, whenever you declare a variable of any class. So if I'm writing something like remote, this is a class. If I declare a variable of this class, it's called as which data type? Reference type. So these are predefined string. This is already there in libraries. So when you declare a variable of this type, it's also called as which type? Reference. This is user defined. You are defining this particular classes. So whatever I'm writing every day, class test, class demo, those are also reference data types only. And this is library classes. Okay. Is that clear too? Till here? Or any confusion?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, so I'll be just stopping the session till here. So tomorrow we'll start with the operators topic. Once the data types are clear, we'll do some example programs tomorrow using data types, some few examples, and then we'll start with the operator chapters. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.